So, today I want to talk about something important. I think it's an important distinction. A distinction is kind of like the word difference. I want to talk about two different goals, two different parts of learning English, both very important. But sometimes people confuse these. And it's important to understand they are different. What are these two things? Well, the two goals are fluency and, number two, academic or professional mastery of English. So here we have two things, fluency, and we'll call it academic English, academic level English. Now, what do I mean? Let's talk about fluency first. What is fluency? Fluency comes from the word fluid, F-L-U-I-D. And fluid, as an adjective, means something that moves easily, like water. In fact, as a noun, fluid means something like water, water-like. Okay, and water moves very easily, right? It can move any direction very quickly and easily. So fluency, we're talking about English fluency. What do we mean? Well, we mean the words move easily. And what does that mean? It means you speak without effort. You speak English without thinking. You speak English without translating. You speak English fast, quickly, and easily. That is fluency. And the Effortless English Club, those are the lessons you pay for. It's a fluency program. Okay, it's focused on fluency. It's the purpose of my lessons is to help learners speak easily and quickly, easily and fast. That's fluency. Native speakers are all fluent. Every native speaker is fluent. Unless they have a brain problem, but if they're a basically normal person, they can speak English quickly and easily. They don't need to think about every word. It's just simple. It's so effortless. That's why I call it effortless English, right? Native speakers, they don't try when they speak English. They just do it. And most people who are learning English or studying it as a foreign language, so it's not your native language, most of you want fluency. In fact, I think that's probably your first goal. Most of you say, I want to speak English easily. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to translate from my language to English back to my language. Right? I want to understand native speakers instantly, immediately. And I want native speakers to understand me. Okay, that's fluency. And you all want that, I'm sure. Now, the problem is, though, sometimes you guys, you all, you confuse this goal, fluency, which is important goal. You confuse it with the other one. The other one is academic level English. Because you'll also say, I want to go to graduate school in America. I want to study a PhD, doctorate degree at Harvard. AJ, I want to do that. How can I do it? And sometimes students and learners, they ask me, I want to go to Harvard and know academic English so I can be fluent. So many learners, actually, they think that fluency means academic English. They think they need a really high GRE score. That's the graduate school test and that means they're fluent. Well, it doesn't mean they're fluent. And in fact, a high TOEFL score doesn't mean you're fluent. Now, you might be, you might not. But especially the old TOEFL test was not a fluency test. It was an academic English test. So what is academic English? It's knowing difficult vocabulary and difficult structures and difficult writing skills. That's academic English. Okay? But you have to remember, these are two different things. And it's important because they require two different methods of learning. If you want fluency, you cannot use academic English methods. It won't work. That's what most of you do. Why? Because in school, that's how they taught you. In your high schools, in your middle schools, in your universities, in your language schools, like the British Council, they use academic English methods. So, you do exercises, you study textbooks, you learn about the past tense and the present perfect and the past perfect and the past perfect progressive. You learn these grammar terms, these grammar names, and you study them and memorize them, and you read very difficult articles with difficult vocabulary and try to memorize it. Okay, now that's an academic English approach, an academic English method. It won't help your fluency. That's why, after 6 years doing these things, you still can't speak easily. You still have trouble with normal conversations. You're using the wrong method. You're using a method that's better for a different goal. So, what should you do? Well, first of all, I recommend that you focus on fluency first. Make fluency your first goal. After you are fluent, then it's okay. Then focus on academic English. Well, that's what native speakers do, right? Native speakers are fluent after 5 years, maybe. 5-year-old children, 6-year-old children. They're basically fluent. Then they go to school. They start reading a lot and learning more difficult English. And when they're in high school, they start learning much more difficult English. But they don't start doing that when they're babies. Even when they're small children, they don't do that. So you need to focus on fluency. Now, how do you learn fluency? The simple answer is you learn fluency by listening. Listening, 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 listening. Now, not just listening. If you turn on English TV, listen 10 hours every day, you will not learn, probably. Why? Well, because you don't understand it. Okay? So listening's not enough. You have to understand it. So listening to English that you understand. That's still not enough. There's one more thing you need. You have to listen repetitively. Repetitively means repeat. It means again and again the same thing. It means you have to hear the same words many, many, many times. In fact, 30 to 50 times usually. You have to hear the same structures, the same common structures, meaning grammar or other patterns, again and again and again. So that's the hard part. Here's the good news. The good news is that fluency, you don't need a lot of vocabulary. And you don't need a lot of structures. In normal conversation, even at college, university level, we don't use a lot of vocabulary. And we don't use a lot of difficult grammar. I mean, most of English uses about 2 or maybe 5,000 words. You know, a very educated person in normal speech uses about 5,000 words day to day. Common words they use again and again. And they're using pretty much the same basic grammar structures. For example, the simple past. Oh, we use that every single day, probably every hour we're awake. Unfortunately, so many students are worried about, the passive voice and difficult written grammar, but they still can't use the simple past. And the simple past, you must master the simple past to be fluent. I mean, absolutely, you have to know it. Not just know it, but instantly know it automatically. So, you got to focus on simpler English. You got to listen. You've got to understand it. And you've got to hear these same words and same structures again and again and again and again and again. That's why I use the mini story technique in my lessons. That's why I'm asking those questions in every lesson. The questions seem easy. Well, they should be easy because I want you to understand. And they're repetitive. I'm asking about the same thing again and again. And why is he asking all these questions? Well, that's why, because I'm trying to repeat the structure and the vocabulary. I'm trying to repeat it many times so you understand it. So I'll say, there was a boy. Then I ask a question, was there a boy? And you yell, yes. And I say, was there a girl? No. Was there a boy or was there a girl? And you say, there was a boy. And I say, what was there? And you say, a boy. Right? And I keep going. And I do this with a lot of the sentences and a lot of the structures, a lot of the grammar. Because I'm repeating these basic fluency words and structures again and again and again. Then you listen to that lesson many times, right? You don't listen to that lesson only one time. I recommend listen to the same lessons in a set. A set has 4 or 6 lessons. So use each lesson for 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe longer. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how fast you go. Students always worry about, I must do a lot of lessons. No, you don't. You need the repetition. You need the understanding. That's what's important for fluency. If you want fluency, you need to spend your study time 80% listening to things you understand and repeating, and 20% reading. And I mean easy reading, like books, magazines, things you enjoy, not textbooks. Okay? So for fluency, you need 80% of your time is listening to English. 20% is spent reading comic books, children's novels, children's books, things like that. Okay, that's 20%. It's good. 80% listening. Do that for 1 year, maybe. It depends. If you do it 5 hours every day, you can do it less. But until you feel comfortable speaking and listening and understanding. After you are fluent, after you have fluency, you feel, I can speak quickly now, and I understand quickly. Not perfect. Okay, native speakers aren't perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. It's okay. But when you feeling, fluent, you're like, wow, I'm feeling better. Well, then maybe you think, well, now I want more vocabulary. Now I want to learn more difficult English. And maybe I want to go to school, or I need special vocabulary for my job. How do you get that? Well, that you get from reading. Okay, academic English, and that includes writing. Okay, academic English, including vocabulary, writing, very complicated grammar, that comes from reading. Reading. So maybe after 1 year, you change 50% listening and 50% reading. The rule is the same. When you read, you must understand what you read and you must see those same words again and again. How do you do that? Well, you choose easy novels is what I recommend. A novel is a storybook. So I recommend start with very easy novels, very easy storybooks. Storybooks for children age, 5 or 6 or 7. Read many of those books. When they are so easy, you think, oh, this is boring, I hate it, it's so easy. Then you change. Then you find more difficult books. Books for, 9, 10, 11-year-old native speakers. Okay, these are books for American children. And you read those novels, those storybooks for the, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. And you read lots of those. And you should understand, 99% of the vocabulary. The other 1%, you will just guess. You don't need a dictionary. It's easy. Okay, after that, you say, oh, I'm sick of these. They're too easy. What's next? Well, then you get middle school novels, right? Novels for middle school children. Storybooks for middle school children. You read a lot of those. Maybe it's romance and love. Maybe it's adventure. I don't know. Maybe it's sports. Maybe it's mystery. Doesn't matter. But find books that are at the middle school level. Read a lot of them. Just enjoy it. You should not need a dictionary. And then, of course, obviously, when those seem super easy, what do you get next? You get books for high school students. Not textbooks. Never, never, never textbooks. You get novels for high school students. Romance books for high school students. Adventure books for high school students. Mysteries for high school students. And you read them again and again. Many of them. I like when you get books in a series. Like Harry Potter is a great example. Harry Potter is at the, maybe the, let's say, middle school level. So you don't need to read the same Harry Potter book 10 times, of course. It's terrible boring. But you read all of them, and, the vocabulary repeats in those books. If you read book 1 and then you read book 2, well, you're seeing a lot of the same vocabulary, plus a little bit new. Then you read book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6, and book 7. And that's, like I said, Harry Potter is about a middle school level English, maybe a little higher. And then you go to your high school. After you finish all these high school novels, you think, these are too easy. What's next? Well, simple. Now you read novels for adults. This is fun. You can read Stephen King, scary storybooks from Stephen King. Or you could read, mystery books or romance, anything. But you're reading books for adults, novels for adults. Maybe Tom Clancy. You like military adventure, so you get Tom Clancy books. You read all his books. Okay, now you are getting a adult, almost high school, university level vocabulary, but without textbooks, without memorizing. It's much easier. It's faster. You learn faster this way than if you use textbooks. And finally, you finish all these great novels, these great storybooks for adults, and now you need specific English. Maybe you are a computer person, computer programmer. You need computer English. Well, easy. If you can read Stephen King, that means you have really good basic English. You have a good vocabulary. So now you buy computer magazines. You read computer websites. You read books about computers. No problem. You'll learn that vocabulary very fast. If you're a business person, well, easy. You watch the business news on CNN and you listen to that. You read business magazines. You read the Wall Street Journal. And you get business vocabulary quickly and easily. But not in the beginning. You have to start with the children's storybooks and go up, up, up to middle school, to high school, to adult. Then read the Wall Street Journal. Not in the beginning. Okay, so there you go. That's your map. That's your plan to reach number 1, fluency, and then number 2, academic level English. Now, finally, when you're very fluent, your formula changes. You will listen only 20%, and you'll be reading 80%. Right? So in the beginning, fluency first, 80% listening, 20% reading. Most of you right now, 80% listening, 20% reading. After some time, you speak quickly and easily, then you change 50% reading and 50% listening. And then finally, you're speaking very easily and quickly, your vocabulary's growing. Now you need university level or graduate school level English. Now you read 80% of the time and you listen only 20%. That's how you can do it. But please don't confuse these two, okay? It's very important that you understand the difference between these two and you use different study methods for each one. If you're wanting fluency, forget the difficult vocabulary right now. For now, forget the vocabulary that's really difficult. Forget the difficult reading. Forget the textbooks. Forget the TOEFL books. You need to listen to basic conversational English. My mini story lessons are a great way to do that. You can find other ways. If you don't want to spend the money, no problem. You can do it yourself. But listen to understandable, basic, conversational English. After 6 months or 1 year, if you do that every day, then you'll be ready to start reading more and more and more, and maybe start to change from fluency focus, and now your goal is academic high-level English. That's fine. Okay? All right, I hope you have a good plan now. I hope you understand the difference between fluency and academic English, and I hope you will use the right strategy, the right plan for each one. Okay, I will see you next time. Bye-bye, and as always, don't forget, go to www.effortlessenglishclub.com. New website, effortlessenglishclub.com. And you can buy my lessons and become fluent. You can get fluency. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.